Greetings, good evening. And first of all, apologies about last week, because many of you that are observant will have noticed that the live video I did last week has been pulled. And the reason it was pulled is because I used humour that apparently you're not allowed to use now in certain respects. So to be on the correct side of the law, it was pulled. So I'm sorry about that. I don't think we're allowed to have a sense of humour. Now, this week, we've got a mystery guest who you probably can see on the other side. We've got Arya Soma, who's joining me, and we're going to talk about low and high frequency sound because the ancients knew all about this. And there was a long burrow in Ireland where there was very strange annotations on the wall. And it wasn't until somebody with an oscilloscope went down there and discovered that what was showing on the screen of the oscilloscope was almost identical to what was on the wall that they twigged out that, or twigged it, that our ancient ancestors knew something about sound resonation. Now, it is said that the pyramids were places of healing, and also what we're going to cover is there's a lot of talk about 5G, but I'm wondering whether the real problem is sound, because they discovered they can control crowds and they control people with low frequency sound. And I've noticed in high streets up and down the country, or just up and down the country, places where I've been, that there's very small like speakers on the top of poles pointing in two directions. Now these, sorry, not speakers, like tannoys. Correction, that's a trade name. Public address systems, shall we say. Sorry, Tannoy, I didn't mean that. But I mean public address systems. Weird. What do they need these public address systems in the middle of towns all over the place? And I'm thinking that that may be for crowd control, because already in 2006, supermarkets were actually using a technology where teenagers apparently can pick up sounds that adults can't, and it created a buzzing noise that they put out near supermarket entrances to stop youths congregating around the entrances. So we've got quite a lot to speak about tonight. So I introduce my guest, Arya. Good evening, Arya. And have you noticed any of these strange public address systems
No,
popping up
because
where you are?
no, not at all. Not where I am. There's nothing like that here. Well, first of all, well, I don't trust them anyway. But I was the one that started the ball rolling to stop the 5G here in Glastonbury. I was going to the boring council meetings. You know what the council meetings are like? Absolutely boring council meetings with absolute just all of them signed up to Agenda 21 anyway. In every councillor, some of them without probably even knowing it. I don't know. And it took me about 9 months to stir it up so that people finally decided to wake up and pay attention. So, but 5G anyway, those frequencies have been around since the 70s because yes, that's what they've used for crowd control. But sound can heal or kill.
That's right. Yes.
Definitely.
Because
this is what.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut across you, but has anybody heard of what was called the hum in 1979? So I'll leave that. So sorry, carry on, Arya. I didn't mean to cut across, but there was a thing called a low frequency hum. That's around the southeast of England.
There's many of them. Like you can check on YouTube. There's like a lot of videos of people reporting very strange sounds all over the earth, all over. There's loads and loads of those videos. They're everywhere. But yeah, and this is what I was telling you earlier. Like for healing, I mean, the pyramid probably, but. I can only talk about what I know because I've never been to the pyramids, but I can tell you that every single church on earth and cathedrals, especially, even more so cathedrals, but churches as well, mosques, all these places were healing places. There was no religion back in the day. As you know, they've lied about everything. They even, it looks like they've possibly added 1,000 years of history that doesn't even exist. And the Rothschilds took away from us our magnetic currency, because we have electric currency on magnetic currency. Electric currency is very detrimental to us. We need magnetic currency. And this is what all the churches, on all the mass, on all the cathedrals had that technology, which is very easy. It's just made with copper coils on rods to draw atmospheric electricity, and it would feed the whole village with that magnetic currency. And this is why it got destroyed, but also those places were not just powerhouses giving us currency to heat our homes, on to have light in our homes, but also those places where, healing places where people would stand in front of the big roses, the big sort of like sacred geometrical patterns that you get in cathedrals and churches and mosques, whilst people would play on the organs, on the sound of the organ, on you standing in front of that sacred geometry would heal you. I've seen some incredible things in churches. So there was nothing religious about it. I think there was only because it's all the same. It's, like all religions, especially the Abrahamic religions, are all based on the same thing anyway. So basically, I wouldn't say they were religious places. They were just places for healing, and they turned everything
actually.
And they turned everything upside down,
yeah,
or made it into a religion. But really, those places were just for praying, because when you pray, prayer is powerful. Meditation is powerful. So you go there to pray, meditate, and heal.
Well, I can actually back up what you're saying, because in Cornwall there's rocks or stones rather that give out massive amount of magnetism at certain times of the day, and they were known as healing rocks, and people would push, if they've got back problems, they'll put their back up against these great big boulders, and to this day it's still a mystery why these boulders give out this massive amount of magnetism. And apparently the North American Indians, they had similar, where they had these certain stones or boulders or whatever that they went to heal. So the earth does actually give out some sort of whatever. And I think this is probably leading to Alfred Watkins, what do you call it now? The old straight track, which is ley lines. Now, I believe there's a ley line going through where you live, and there's one not far from me.
There's two of them. There's a St. Mary line on the what was it, St. Mary line. I think there's a Joseph line as well. There might even be a third. There's quite a few lines crisscrossing here. Yeah, the ley lines. Yeah.
But there's a place called Dunstable up near my neck of the woods. Now, I don't like Dunstable. I get a funny feeling when I go there, and that's on a ley line. And that's one that shoots.
And magnetism is connected with the mother as well. Magnetism is feminine. Electricity means God in Hebrew, and that's the male part. And magnetism is the female part. And then you have dielectricity, which is the source. Right? There's dielectricity. There's dielectricity. From dielectricity, which is the source, you get the separation. You get the mother. Which is magnetism, and then from magnetism you get electricity. Electricity is not long-lived. Electricity, you can cut electricity off, and it dies. It's a sine wave that dies. Where the magnetism is the mother, and it actually heals you. Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, it's very strange, because with this sort of like senses that you get, now. I'm very, very sensitive to areas. You can go into different areas and you think, oh, I don't like this place. And I do like this place. Now, I went to Shaw's Corner, which is actually in Hertfordshire, where I live. And I went there 20, 30 years ago. And I felt a really strong form of negative force there. And I wanted to get away from that place as soon as possible. It was, and I found that I got into buildings that you either get a positive feel or a negative feel for. And I think that with architecture, what we've got today, for example, I think we've got negative buildings, because the Garden City movement started in about 1907, where they was building garden cities, and Letchworth was one of the first. And if you go to Letchworth, and there's also Welwyn Garden City, that
I know.
was a little
Yeah, I've been there.
it's nice. It feels countryish. But you look at these modern housing estates, God, I mean, Thamesmead. Now, I've been past Thamesmead and it's that awful place. They reckon that when it was first built, people were chucking themselves off the top of the high rise buildings. Sorry, I
Yeah.
shouldn't laugh. That's a very serious thing. But they were chucking themselves off on a regular basis and with depression.
And also,
And
this is, yeah.
when you look at these buildings, they are evil. They're negative. They're
Oh, yeah,
dark.
I can't even stand any cities. I can't even be in a city. I just can't be in a city. I hate every single fucking building. I just can't stand cities, full stop. I have to be in the countryside. To
Same
be
here.
honest, I'd love to be in the middle of nowhere with just me and my cat. I'd be quite happy with that.
Mm.
But the name like Mason means son of Ma. So it means it means son of the mother. That's what a Freemason. The name comes from. The Mason is a son of Ma, and it's all to do with magnetism. But of course, the original Freemasonry, I think, was the White Brotherhood, which was taken over and infiltrated by the ones who are not allowed to criticize. A long time ago. A long time ago. You're talking about
Sure.
like so-called like Christ times or whatever, and so they've been taking our magnetism away from us. It wasn't the first time. They did it the last time about 200 years ago, but it wasn't the last time that they did that, And I think something's going to happen. I think the age of Aquarius on the 21st of December this year, which will be, of course, a winter solstice. At the same time, we have a great conjunction between Jupiter and Saturn. It is actually named a great conjunction. And what's going to happen that day? This is when not only are Jupiter and Saturn making an exact conjunction, but they're making an exact conjunction in Aquarius. So it's going to be quite something. And a lot of planets are retrograding at the moment. So that is a lot of unrest and a lot of like craziness at the moment for sure. But I reckon, I'm not into Q or anything like that, but Trump has done some really amazing things in America on he's reopening all the states, and he's taking all the fucking governors to court to make sure they reopen their states. I wish Trump would do that to bloody Johnson here. And I reckon if Trump is who Q think he is, or who is meant to be, we are going to regain our magnetic currency. That would be the first thing he will do. And he will probably replace all the 5G evil technology with Tesla 432 magnetic currency. That's what I reckon is going to happen, because I'm not a pessimist, and I refuse to go down into. I know what they're up to, but the thing is that this is what happened. This is what consciousness has to do with. When you shed light on something, then you draw attention to it, so people can become conscious of it. Yeah. So as you know, these bastards, that rule everything, they think that karmically they're not going to get any bad karma if they tell us in advance what they're going to do. And they tell us all the fucking time. It's in all their newspapers, it's in all their magazines. They tell us all the time. So it's up to us to shed light on it and tell as many people as possible what they intend to do. Because once we tell them, then once more people know about it, they can't really go ahead with it. Like I did a video, and I'm sure it's all to do with sound again. How they can create they can create any weather they like, but it's also through sound that they can do that. Sound is the ultimate. Sound is more powerful than color. Sound is, in the beginning was the word, yeah. So as I said, like sound can heal or kill. And it looks like they're planning at some point in November. It looks like either the 2nd or 29th of November, or it could be, I don't know. I mean, I've looked at the stuff, and it definitely looks like if anybody can really decode it, it looks like they definitely intend to do something of the coast of Cornwall, a kind of detonation, or use some kind of HARP technology to create a tsunami. Yeah, to create a tsunami. And usually what happens, okay, when there's a tsunami, which is that powerful, if it's going to reach London with like sort of 500 feet wave or whatever, then what happens next is it creates a lot of mud floods. And the mud floods, that means literally everything that's flat wherever in England will get fucking flooded, basically, on mud flooded. And they've done other things where this is one thing I'm still trying to discover. I'm sure it's done with sound as well. It's petrification. I mean, Petra in Greek means stone. Yeah. So everything that you see that is a stone is something that was petrified. It was a living organism that was turned into stone. And Ovid, if you read Ovid, he talks about that, like the Greek philosopher Ovid talks about that. And apparently they use mud flooding and some kind of like sound technology, could be harp as well or something, and they petrify everything, or they can petrify anything they want on Earth. So the Earth is littered with giants, with humans, with dragons. The dragons are all over the place. They're dragons. They are dragons, and some of them are like literally a kilometer or more long. It's not a joke. It's not a joke. So everything you see that is stone could have been a mushroom, could have been a plant. And there's a guy in America called Roger Spare, by the way, who DNA tests all the rocks, and he can tell you whether it's human or could be a giant human, or if it was a plant or an animal on whatever it was. And I reckon, this is what I reckon, when Bill Gates says that he wants to reduce the carbon dioxide, which of course we're very low on. We need more of it, not less. Fucking frigging absolute moron. Is apparently invented a machine to suck it out of the air. Well, I reckon the last time they did that they started to get rid of more carbon dioxide, which is what they're trying to do now with all this nonsense. It is for carbon dioxide to be lethal for human beings. You're talking about above 2,000 ppm. And we're a far cry from that. We're barely 400 ppm at the moment. So a reduction in carbon dioxide will also create smaller people. That means we're going to get reduced in size again. I think it's happened before. I think we used to be the giants here. We used to be a lot taller. There's 100-foot giants, 50-foot giants. And then the other giants or the titans maybe come from other parts of Earth. I don't know. But, it looks like they want to try and do some kind of a petrification program again on Earth so that we forget all our history again. They do that every sort of 100 years. They'll have bloody wars. And when it gets too much like it does right now, the war is not enough. They need some kind of like to completely erasing our history, which is obviously what the Bolsheviks are up to right now in America.
Well, the thing is that when I believe that what we're told and what's happening, I mean, we're told a mixture of lies and false truths and half truths and some truths and whatever. But when you try and patch things together and look at what's happened in the past and mix it with what's happening today, for example, talking about sound, people have looked at a chap called Manuel Noriega, if I pronounce his name right, of Panama. Now, in 1989, the American troops surrounded his palace and he refused to come out. So what did they do? They put loads and loads of loudspeakers around his palace and played hard rock very loudly.
Ugh.
And it was a psyop. And eventually, and I don't blame him, he came out. Now, that is a weird thing. And the other thing I was going to talk about is this hum. Now, I remember it. Yes, I am that old. And in 1979, I remember waking up about 3 o'clock in the morning and it's a low frequency sort of.
I hear that all the time. I hear that at least once sometimes every night, sometimes for a while, then it stops. I mean,
Yeah.
I hear that a lot.
Well, what it was, it sounded like a plane, an old piston engine plane flying through low cloud.
Yeah,
And
that's
I thought, what the hell is it now? At that time, I had this old fridge from God knows when. I think the dinosaurs were around when that was built. And it used to make this sort of boom, 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 boom as it ran. I thought it was that made a similar, but it was beginning to get on my nerves. So I got out of bed, remember this quite clearly, went downstairs, opened the front door to see whether the noise was outside, to look out to see my neighbour from just across the road looking out, sort of looking around. And it made the news. And apparently this noise moved from right the way through East Anglia, through Hertfordshire, through London, and ended up in Canterbury. And it took several months to do it. And it was all around. And I actually wrote an article about this because I used to write for a magazine. And I got feedback. And a bloke said that I think it was in somewhere in South London, people were standing at a bus stop and he witnessed it as well. And there's these massive like bubbles, in the television program, The Prisoner, were not quite as big as that. You know, the bubble used to come up there, and they were just floating along the high street, and people going, huh? And lots of mysterious things were happening around about that time. Now, in 1980, in oh, where was it now? A place called Kirkby and Ashfield in Nottinghamshire, July 1980. There was a field where there was some sort of fake going on, and 300 school children, including teachers and their parents, collapsed and were sick and were suffering from nausea. And when they were rushed to hospital, when they got to hospital, they couldn't find anything wrong with them, and they sort of recovered, which was weird.
Yeah.
Now, I'm wondering whether they were actually experimenting in those days with
Oh,
infrasound.
they probably did because, for example, I can tell you it was either 1992 or 1994. I can't remember, but I got that from Barry Trower. Yeah, he told me that Barry Trower. Yeah, he basically told me that back in, I think it was 1992 or 1994 in Austria. I can't remember. I think it was. It was some town in Austria, not the whole town, but they took a part of the town, which probably I would say corresponds to like Hackney in London or something, like East London or something. And without anyone knowing about it, they put up 5G there. They actually put up 5G. For 6 months, they wanted to do a 6 months trial. So for 6 months, they put up 5G. And I think it might have been Vienna, actually. I think it was in one borough or one district of Vienna. And many people started to get cancer. Many, and even children were getting cancer. And this is, I can find the article if you want again, like, because Barry Trower, I think, talked about it in some of his videos as well. I'll find it. But yeah, he knows about that. So they do that all the time, and people don't know. They're experimenting on us all the fucking time. And
that's true in the American embassy, isn't it, in Moscow?
Yeah, and
that
I tell
was
you
in
what,
the late 70s
yeah, and
with
I
the
tell you what,
microwaves.
yeah, and I tell you what, we found like I found some amazing things. So the mud flooding on the flat earth and all that. I found some incredible stuff. Like, for example, like the houses, they had like what we think is sort of like around Victorian times and all that. The buildings didn't have any toilets or any bathroom, and we think it's because they weren't clean. But I don't think it's that at all. And the fireplaces, weren't used for fire. They were used for heating, but there was no fire because they had atmospheric magnetic currency it was all done through the atmosphere. There was no. That's the way they did it.
I mean,
And they couldn't find any kitchens. Yeah, but hang on, they couldn't even fucking find kitchens. I reckon back in the day, nobody even ate anything. I'm telling you, there's something really weird. I lived in Brazil for a while, and in Brazil, I went to a community because I really wanted to go there. Because since I'm 54 now, but since about the age of 25, I've always felt one day I'm going to stop eating. And I want to become a breatharian. It's a bit hard for me. I'm ruled by the stomach. I'm cancerian, but it will happen. But I lived in Brazil. I ate only fruit, and I felt amazing, looked amazing. I barely ate, and I looked amazing and felt amazing. So our diet is meant to be fruit anyway, but I think you can even go beyond that. And if your air is clean and if you've got proper magnetism all around you, healing you all the time, you can literally survive without eating anything. You don't need to eat anything. And I think there was a time on earth when nobody ate anything, and somehow from there they started to make us eat. Also, I think there was the fall, like when they cut down all our trees, and you can see that on Earth, a lot of places that are called mesas, and they look like massive round things. And people are like, oh, what's that? It's just rock. It's a rock formation. No, it is not a rock formation. It's petrified, but it's a tree that was cut clean through the top, yeah? And some of them were hacked to pieces, which is our mountains, yeah? And these
Table mounting is like that, isn't it?
were so big that these trees, I'm not joking, these trees are like 30, 40 miles across. This is how big they were. And I reckon that at some point we used to live in those trees. We were bigger, but the trees were so big that we could literally live in the trees or put our houses up in the tree, like tree houses kind of thing. This is how we used to live. For our own protections as well, you know, and I don't think we used to eat, and if we ate anything, it would just be fruits of the tree. We never, you know, I mean, when you think about it, why do you have to bother even growing things? We should just be foraging, you know. But in England, it's really hard because they've cut down so many trees in England. I mean, it's pretty bare. But you go to a place like Brazil, the forest is everywhere, and you've got fruit everywhere. We should rebuild forests everywhere. We should fucking plant fruit trees everywhere. And the more trees you have, what happens is that in the winter, it keeps you warm. It actually keeps you warm. The forest keeps you warm, and in the summer it's the opposite. It keeps you, you know, nice on cool. You know, so
Well,
yeah.
trees are like air conditioners, aren't they? Really, because you know, if you stand under a tree in the summer, it is like the best air conditioning unit you can actually get. But with forests, they actually resonate, and
Yeah,
they
and
re-
of
the,
course these are full of magnetism. You know, and this is what we're meant to. We should really be walking barefoot to get that magnetism from the earth.
oh yes, I'm a great fan of that. It's called earthing, isn't it? And in the
Yeah.
summer, I actually walk around barefoot. Um, that's all right until you come up against dog poo or tin
Oh,
tacks. But
you don't do it in town. You have to do it. It has to be on earth or grass. You can't do it. Yeah, mesa means table. That's true. Yeah, this is what they
that's
call
right.
them mesa because they look like tables, but actually they are petrified trees.
Mm.
The ones that are completely cut clean, and then the ones that look like the mountains, which are like this, those were hacked to pieces by giants. Whether we were the giants, but I reckon the giants, because I know that I don't believe, by the way, I know the earth is flat, but we have Shambhala on the top with the one below. There's another bigger one below, and another one below, on the same underneath. And apparently the little people are in the middle. Then is us, but I think we used to be a lot bigger in size. And then you have the giants, and then you have the titans, which are like literally, I would say, I don't know, like 10 miles up or something. Like giant. There is a mountain in Morocco called Dragon Mountain, and that's 200 miles long, and it is a dragon, and it is 200-mile long. I think everything was bigger and less carbon dioxide reduces everything in size. And this is what they do all the time to control us, you know. We get reduced in size.
Yeah, I think that. I mean, the more I find out about historical inaccuracies, the more I realise we've been told. Excuse my language. I was going to say excuse my French, but I can't speak French. Excuse my bullshit. Excuse the bullshit. But quite honestly, it's bullshit that we're actually told. I mean, for instance, when I was at school, it's
Oh,
probably
everything's
similar when.
a lie. Everything that we are taught is a lie. Absolutely, there isn't one grain of truth in literally anything. In
Well,
anything.
no, I mean, when I was at school, it was who built the Stonehenge, and you put your hand up. You say it was the Druids, miss. So you go, that's quite correct. No, it's wrong. Druids didn't build Stonehenge. It was built thousands of years before the Druids. The Druids used Stonehenge, yes, but they didn't build it. And there's all different things like that we're told that were true and gospel truth, but it's not true.
Yeah.
And really, let's face it, when you look about a history of wars, wars are always written, or the history of wars is written by the victor, never the loser. So you're only going to get one side.
Well,
I
the
mean, for example,
history, yeah, the history is always written by
that's right.
yeah,
I
that's
mean,
true.
ancient Britons were still believing what the Romans wrote when they came to Britain, invaded Britain, because they thought we were a load of ignorant savages. And they wrote about ignorant savages, and historians have used Roman texts and believed it, but
Oh, but it's
they
worse.
were an
It's
empire
worse.
and they looked on anybody that wasn't Roman as, or
It's
shall we say,
worse than that.
converted.
The Roman times won 2,000 years ago. They were about 1,000 years ago. They've also lied. They have completely messed our timelines, and this is what they do all the time. And do you know how I found out? There's a lady. I'll have to find her again. She's on. When I find it, I will post it below your video. Yeah.
Mhm.
She does a lot of research like me on a lot of various subjects. I don't just research one thing. And she found all these paintings, yeah, lots of different paintings from all different eras. And literally every painting she found, and you look at it, and they have a date, yeah, and you look at the date, and it was clearly the way they've done it. Basically, you think, oh yeah, that's a painting from 1650. Oh yeah, the people look like they're wearing, something that looks
Mm.
like what we are told would be from like about 1650. Yeah. Well, actually, the one is not a one; it's an eye. And sometimes you can see they've purposely put a little thing like that to make it look like a one. But in a lot of cases, those paintings have survived, and they didn't have the time to put that little thing, so it survived as an eye. as a not as an eye. It's an eye.
Ah, you're talking about flamenco,
So
aren't
it
you?
means in the year 650, not in the year six. It doesn't mean 1650. So what we've realized is they've actually added 1,000 years of history that doesn't exist at all, at
Do
all.
you think I
And
better explain what your excuse me cutting in, but there's
and this is why when
a
I was
Russian,
yeah, and
wasn't it,
this is
called
why
flamenco,
when I yeah, and this is why I started to
who's
watch Westworld.
redating things.
Yeah, and this is why when I started to watch Westworld, the TV series called Westworld, I mean, it's incredible. They're literally telling you in that show what they're doing to us and what they've been doing to us forever. I mean, obviously, in that show, that is meant to be the robots, so they're doing that too, but we're like their little robots. We're like their little plaything, you know. So I consider, you know, that we are like the robots in Westworld. But it's just incredible. And they do that all the time. They mess with our timelines. They mess with absolutely everything. So we forget who we really are, where we come from, what we have achieved. You know, yeah. And then by the way, as well, this is the thing that a lot of people don't know. And this is very important for people to get that, because a lot of people, even the ones we're not meant to be discussing, if they only knew the truth, I think that would sort a lot of problems out. So basically, the right brain is always been known, always been known. This is a fact when you research it. The right brain is called the Aryan brain. And this is why we always say doing the right thing. We never say, oh, you have to do the wrong thing. It's always about doing the right thing. We have to go to the right before we can go back to the pineal gland or be fully enlightened. Yeah. So the left brain is the male brain, and it's also called what? The Semitic brain. Semen has to do with men. Yeah. So this is the male brain, and this is the female brain. So this is the
I'm left-handed,
so
so
this is
I'm upright the other way around.
no, so this is a Semitic brain, yeah, and we have to leave the Semitic brain to go to the right brain, which is the Aryan brain, and then purposely the elite have tried to turn it into a race, like the Semitic race and the Aryan race, and it's all absolute frigging nonsense. And in the Old Testament, which is a beautiful book, by the way, the Old Testament is a book on how to raise your Kundalini, whether the New Testament is actually a book of health. So Jacob in the Old Testament is basically the sun, is the same as the sun, right? And Jacob at some point comes face to face with God in where? In a place called Pineal. What's Pineal? Pineal is your pineal gland, you know.
Well,
But you have to go from the
right,
thrust. The
cutting in here, but if I
Kundalini
could wind
rises.
this up a little bit, but
Yeah, let
anyway,
me just
we
yeah,
get
but
to the
let me just
program.
yeah, let me just finish with that because it's very
Yeah,
important.
sorry.
So, but basically, your Kundalini rises from your root chakra. There's 7 chakras, but it goes like that, yeah. And at some point, it goes via your left brain, but you mustn't stay in your left brain. As it goes into your left brain, you learn about logic. You know, you learn it's all to do with like universities learning all that crap that you have to repeat by heart and so on. And then you go into your right brain. Once you're in your right brain, you're in your right mind, because then you can enter the place where God resides, which is where your pineal gland is. And this is all like forgotten knowledge, which is part of something I practice, which is called syncretism. Yeah, and it's very important right now to get syncretism out into the world, because if everybody knew the truth about what the Bible and all religions are really about, there would be no more war, there would be no more Christians, Jews. That is all complete nonsense. Yeah, there is no Christian race, no Muslim race, no Jewish race. It's all nonsense, nonsensical. In fact, it's very simple. There's only 4 races: white, black, yellow, and red. Everything else is a mongrel. Like, I'm a
Well,
mongrel.
I think the big problem is psychopaths, and that doesn't matter what race. There's
Well,
psychopaths.
exactly. Well, exactly. It has
But
nothing to
that's
do with
another
race.
subject.
They always bring race into it. Who gives a shit? I don't care what fucking color you are. As long as you're not a bloody fucking moron on a bloody psychopath, I don't bloody care. You know.
Anyway, it's been very good of you to come on this evening, and thank you for a very interesting program. And all I say is, if you could subscribe and share this video before YouTube boot me off, boot us all off, and ring the bell. There's a little bell that goes, but you press it on. It doesn't cost anything, so that you can sort of be told when we're coming on again. And please join me 8 o'clock next Monday. And I'm sorry about last Monday again. That video had to be pulled because anyway, thank you very much, and join us again next Monday, 8 o'clock. Thank you very much. And goodbye from me and goodbye from Arian.
Yeah.
Do you want to say the last few words?
Bye, guys.